Okay, so today I thought we would talk about figurative language, and I thought we would just kind of start with it as an umbrella term first, and then maybe get into specific types of figurative language with later videos. So let me kind of start with kind of a popular misconception or a mistake that people often make, and I know that I have made as a teacher, and that is that students kind of already know what figurative language is, or that somebody before me has already taught them what figurative language is. And so I don't really need to do that. I can kind of just give them the definition and start there. And I have found that that is not true. Many of my students, and I teach mostly 10th grade, but I'm sure this is true for, for all students at this level. Many of my students have kind of a surface level of an understanding of what figurative language is, but perhaps have never really been taught how it works. So maybe they'll know the definition, or maybe they'll know examples, but they don't really understand kind of how it functions. So I'm going to show you how I teach figurative language, the introduction that I give, and maybe this will help you to kind of tell students how figurative language works, what the function is, and maybe it'll stick. So when we're doing figurative language, we are, of course, trying to show something that is literal, and we are trying to help somebody to understand that literal thing by comparing it to something that is more figurative. And here's what I mean by that. So this literal thing, it might be an actual event that we're experiencing, or an emotion, maybe an item, maybe just kind of an experience that we've had, but something that we literally are going through or touching or seeing at that moment. So it's something that we are experiencing and that we want to share with someone else. But maybe it's difficult to really explain to someone else adequately, and we're trying to figure out a way to do that. And so the way that we can think of to do that is to compare it to something else, and to think of what characteristics this thing has with something else, right? And so that something else is the figurative thing. So we imagine in our heads, what else is this thing that I'm dealing with right now? This emotion that I'm experiencing, or this meal that I'm eating, or this smell that I'm smelling, or this taste that I have, or this thing that I'm feeling in my hands, whatever. What does this thing feel like? What does it smell like? What does it what does it sound like? Whatever. So I'm trying to think of something in my mind to compare it to, so that it will make sense to someone else, right? That's what figurative language is. So I need to come up with an imaginative example that I can use for comparison. And that imaginative example shares some kind of characteristic or multiple characteristics with this literal thing. So for some of my students, I show them that this is kind of like a math equation, right? So a lot of my students tend to be math-brained students. They are more logical, more science-based maybe. And so for them, it's difficult for them to really maybe understand a lot of the literature that I am teaching them, or maybe the literary skills that I'm teaching them, because they are so logical, they are so literal, right? But if I'm showing them in terms of a math equation, maybe it makes better sense. And even this example is an example of figurative language. So figurative language is like a math equation, right? The things on both sides are equal. I'm trying to show you how they are the same. It's just that this side is, maybe a different form than what's on the other side. But I want to show you that they are equal, right? There's something about this that is the same as that, but it might show up in a different way. It might show up in a different format, right? So over here, I might have two numbers, that add up to one number, right? Or I might have one number and an unknown, and they add up to another number, right? Math equation. So I want to show my students that I'm trying to take something that is literal, something that I have right here in this moment, and I want to explain and to express to someone else who is not inside of my mind, who is not inside of my body, or maybe who wasn't with me at that moment, what it was like, what my experience was like. And the only way that I can really do that is to think of something that maybe everyone has experienced, or maybe most people can relate to. And to do that, I have to think of something that is more figurative. Okay, so I hope that that kind of kicks off the figurative language unit for you, gives you some way to explain it to students, helps you to get maybe a little bit of an an inroad for your unit, and start you off on the right foot. So I hope that you find this useful. If you do, please let me know and come back and visit me here at Teaching Lit with Rit. Let me know, and